I remember the first time I saw her, and honestly, it feels like it was yesterday, even though it was a moment that could have easily gone unnoticed. You know, life has this strange way of arranging moments that seem ordinary, and yet, if you pay attention, they end up being extraordinary. I was going about my day, caught up in routines, deadlines, and the constant hum of ideas bouncing around my mind, when suddenly, there she was. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way, but in that subtle, almost imperceptible moment where the world seems to pause just for a second. That pause is what changed everything. She had this presence, not loud, not demanding, just quietly magnetic. There's a difference between someone who draws attention because they want it and someone who simply exists and everyone around them can't help but notice. She belonged to the latter. You don't realize the power of someone's aura until it stops you in your tracks. She smiled, not a forced smile, but a smile that was entirely genuine, like she had a secret she was inviting you to share. I remember thinking, who is she, and how can someone be this effortless, this real? What struck me most wasn't her appearance, though she was undeniably stunning. It was her energy. There's an energy that can't be taught, that can't be faked, and it's contagious. It's the kind of energy that makes you think more clearly, dream bigger, and challenge yourself to be better just by being near it. That moment, the very first second we locked eyes, I felt something that I had read about in books, heard in stories, but never truly understood until then, the feeling that the universe is quietly nudging you toward someone, nudging you toward possibility. And there's this detail that I keep coming back to in my mind. She was doing something completely ordinary, laughing at a joke, flipping through a book, sipping her coffee, but it was the way she did it. Every small motion was deliberate, yet natural, like she existed in perfect alignment with herself and the world around her. Most people wouldn't notice, but I did. It's funny how the smallest details, the tiniest gestures, can leave the largest impressions when you're paying attention. That's the kind of person she is, someone who turns ordinary moments into unforgettable memories without even trying. I also remember the conversation that followed our first real exchange. It wasn't monumental, nothing like a movie scene where sparks fly and words stumble out. It was simple, thoughtful, and curious. She asked questions that made me think in ways I hadn't thought before. There's a rare quality in people who can do that, who make you examine your assumptions, challenge your comfort zones, and feel inspired to look at the world differently. By the time we parted that day, I knew two things. First, that I had met someone extraordinary, and second, that my life would never quite be the same again. Looking back, I realized that first encounter wasn't just a meeting. It was a collision of timing, energy, and possibility. It was a reminder that the universe often communicates in whispers, in glances, in moments so brief that if you blink, you miss them entirely. And sometimes, those fleeting moments carry the weight of everything that's about to change in your life. That day, in that ordinary setting, I glimpsed something extraordinary and left a mark that still resonates every single day. Some encounters are fleeting, some are forgettable, and some define the trajectory of your life. Meeting her was not fleeting. It was not forgettable. It was transformative. And in that instant, I realized that the story I thought I was living had just found a new, unexpected chapter, one that promised adventure, inspiration, and a connection I couldn't have imagined. That's the power of meeting someone who isn't just remarkable. It's the kind of person who makes you reconsider what's possible, who reminds you that life has more depth, more color, and more surprise than you ever allowed yourself to believe. And in that brief, ordinary, yet utterly unforgettable moment, I understood that some people don't just cross your path, they redirect your life. There's something remarkable about meeting someone who isn't just present in your life, but seems to embody every quality you didn't even realize you were searching for. That's exactly what she is, my dream girl, not because she fits some checklist or idealized version of perfection, but because she exists in a way that challenges everything I thought I knew about admiration, connection, and inspiration. It's not about beauty alone. Although she is stunning, it's not about charm, although she has it in abundance. It's deeper than that. It's the way she thinks, the way she moves through the world, the way she makes you feel as though your potential isn't just a possibility, but a responsibility you owe to yourself. When I talk about her, the first thing that comes to mind is her mind. She has this rare combination of curiosity and clarity, a hunger to understand not just the world, but the people within it. Conversations with her aren't just exchanges of words. They're explorations, adventures into ideas and possibilities. She asks questions that make you reconsider assumptions you didn't know you were holding. She listens not to respond, but to truly understand. And in that, there's a generosity that is almost tangible, a willingness to see the world through both her lens and yours. That kind of intelligence isn't just impressive, it's magnetic. But it's not just intellect that defines her. There's a courage in her that's both inspiring and humbling. Life has thrown challenges her way, as it does for all of us, but she faces them with a combination of grace and relentless determination that leaves you in awe. She doesn't shy away from complexity or discomfort. She leans into it, and somehow in watching her, you realize that resilience isn't a trait you're born with. It's something you cultivate, something she embodies effortlessly. She doesn't make it look heroic, she makes it look inevitable, as if rising to the occasion is the only natural response to the opportunities life presents. What makes her truly remarkable, though, is how she balances intensity with warmth. She has a presence that energizes the room, but she also has the subtlety to make you feel seen in moments that no one else would notice. She celebrates other people's victories with genuine excitement. She offers support without judgment, and she has a laughter that isn't just heard, it's felt. That combination of empathy and vitality creates a rare kind of gravity, one that draws people toward her not because she demands it, but because she invites it through authenticity. There's also an unspoken sense of alignment with her values and vision. She lives intentionally, aware of her choices, her time, and the ripple effects of her actions. That intentionality isn't preachy or rigid, it's natural, like breathing. And watching someone live in alignment with their own principles is like seeing a living blueprint of what it means to pursue life with purpose. She inspires you not by telling you what to do, but by showing you what is possible when someone truly commits to their own journey. And then there's the way she sees potential in others. She notices the spark in people that they often overlook themselves, and she nurtures it, challenges it, and celebrates it. Being around her makes you feel capable of more than you believed. She's the kind of person who doesn't just elevate herself, she elevates the people around her. And that rare generosity is, in many ways, the most magnetic trait of all. Every day with her feels like a lesson in balance, growth, and possibility. She challenges without threatening, inspires without pressuring, and comforts without enabling. She's not a dream girl because she's perfect. She's a dream girl because she makes you want to be your best self without ever asking for it. That's the kind of influence that reshapes your trajectory, that subtly, almost imperceptibly, expands your horizon just by existing. In a world full of fleeting impressions and surface-level connections, she is the reminder that true admiration, real inspiration, and profound connection aren't about what someone looks like, or even what they say. They're about how they live, how they engage, and how they ignite the potential inside you that you didn't even know was waiting. She is, without exaggeration, the embodiment of possibility in human form. And in every moment I spend with her, I realize that a dream girl isn't someone you stumble upon. It's someone who transforms the way you see the world, and in doing so, transforms the world you see. It's funny how some connections in life feel immediate, electric, almost like the universe quietly snapping its fingers and saying, "Pay attention, because this one matters." That was the kind of connection I felt with her. Not in some overdramatic lightning strike sense, but in a steady, undeniable way that slowly but surely shifted everything about how I experience the world. You don't always recognize these connections in the first moments. Often, it's the accumulation of small things, subtle signs, little interactions that gradually become monumental. With her, every conversation, every glance, every shared silence felt purposeful, as if each was designed to reinforce the bond that neither of us fully understood at the time. The unforgettable connection wasn't just about shared interests or compatible personalities. Those things help, sure, but they don't make a connection unforgettable. What makes it remarkable is a sense of recognition, like you've stumbled across someone who understands the shape of your thoughts before you even voice them. With her, I felt that immediately. She has this uncanny ability to see people, not just the surface, not just the roles they play or the masks they wear, but the layers beneath, the unspoken complexities, the potential hidden in plain sight. And in being seen like that, you start to see yourself differently, more clearly, more boldly. We started sharing moments that at first seemed ordinary. A coffee, a walk, a laugh over something insignificant. But they quickly became extraordinary because of the way she experienced them. She has a presence that transforms the mundane into something memorable. You realize that connection isn't measured by grand gestures or dramatic events. It's measured by the way someone can make the ordinary feel alive. She made me feel that even the simplest moments had depth, texture, and significance, and that is a rare, almost impossible gift. There's also a vulnerability to her that's disarming in the best way possible. She doesn't hide behind armor or pretense. She lets herself be seen, fully and authentically, and in doing so, she invites you to do the same. That's how connections become unforgettable. They're not built on perfection, but on authenticity. Being around her, you feel a freedom to express your truest self, to explore your own ideas, fears, and dreams without judgment. That level of trust, that mutual opening of hearts and minds, is the kind of connection that leaves a mark you carry forever. And then there's the laughter, the kind of laughter that isn't just a reaction, but a catalyst. With her, laughter is a language of its own, one that communicates joy, relief, understanding, and sometimes even unspoken agreement on the absurdity of life. There's a rhythm to it, a way it builds bridges between thoughts, between silences, between moments that might otherwise pass unnoticed. That laughter became the soundtrack to our connection, and it's something that echoes in your mind long after the moment has passed. The unforgettable connection also lies in how she challenges you. Not in a confrontational way, but in a way that stretches your thinking, pushes your boundaries, and encourages you to see beyond the edges of your comfort zone. She asks questions that make you reevaluate, nudges you toward growth without ever forcing it, and celebrates curiosity as much as accomplishment. In her presence, you start to feel the exhilarating tension between who you are and who you could be. And it's thrilling in a way that makes every interaction feel alive with potential. It's remarkable how someone can make you feel understood without explanation, inspired without instruction, and grounded while simultaneously pushing you to explore more. That's the essence of our connection. The way it simultaneously comforts and propels, reassures and excites. The moments we've shared may be ordinary to the outside world, but they're indelibly etched in my memory because they've fundamentally altered how I experience life, people, and possibility. And the truth is, connections like this don't happen often. They're rare, fragile, and beautiful because they're built on layers of attention, care, and authentic presence. They're not manufactured, they're discovered, nurtured, and allowed to grow naturally. With her, that connection didn't just grow, it expanded, deepened, and left an imprint so profound that it became impossible to imagine life without it. In the quiet, in the laughter, in the shared curiosity, and in the unspoken understanding, I realized that some people aren't just companions. They're catalysts, co-creators of the life you're meant to live, and a reminder that the most unforgettable connections are the ones that transform the way you see yourself and the world around you. And in that transformation, I found something I hadn't anticipated, yet will never forget: the extraordinary power of being truly, deeply understood. If there's one thing I've learned about life, it's that reality often defies expectation in ways that leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Meeting her was full of surprises, but nothing compared to the day I realized something that completely changed my perspective. Something as simple as a number, yet as profound as the universe itself. For weeks, months even, I had admired her energy, her wisdom, her spirit. She seemed to possess this timeless quality, a blend of curiosity courage, and clarity that didn't feel tied to any conventional notion of age. It's rare, almost impossible, to encounter someone whose presence makes you forget the constraints we usually assign to years and birthdays. It started as a casual conversation, the kind where you talk about life, experiences, and the little details that make a person who they are. We were laughing, debating ideas, sharing stories, and suddenly, a simple question came up, something about where she had been in certain years, a reference to events I assumed aligned with my own life timeline, and that's when it hit me. I asked her directly, partly out of curiosity and partly out of disbelief. The answer she gave didn't just surprise me. It shook every assumption I had about experience, wisdom, and the way people grow. Her age, the number of years she had actually lived, was nothing like I expected. It wasn't the shock of youth or age. It was the shock of incongruity. How could someone embody such perspective, such poise, and such energy while being so far removed from what the numbers suggested? I realized that age, in the conventional sense, is almost meaningless when you encounter someone who lives fully, who engages with life at a level that transcends calendars and birthdays. She had this extraordinary ability to absorb knowledge, experience life, and cultivate empathy in a way that made her seem both infinitely wise and vibrantly alive at the same time. And that's when it became clear. We often underestimate people because of labels, because of numbers, because of societal expectations. We make assumptions based on what we've seen or heard, and we forget to look deeper. Her age was a reminder that life's most extraordinary qualities cannot be measured by the passage of years alone. They're measured in curiosity, courage, resilience, laughter, and the capacity to inspire those around you. It's measured by how fully someone engages with the world, and by that measure, she is decades ahead of anyone I've ever known. In that moment, I also realized something else. The way she defies expectations isn't just an anomaly, it's a lesson. A lesson about how we perceive potential, how we value experience, and how we define growth. We often think that age dictates capability, insight, or vibrancy, but being with her shows you that life isn't a timeline. It's a canvas, and she paints on it with a boldness, precision, and beauty that most people can only dream of achieving after countless years of trying. What's even more remarkable is how naturally she inhabits her age. There's no pretense, no effort to appear older, wiser, or more experienced than she is. She simply is, and in being, she demonstrates that every assumption we make about people, life, and potential is open to challenge. It's liberating, in a way, to realize that the boundaries we've internalized are often illusions. She exists as a living example that what truly matters isn't how long you've been alive, but how fully you've chosen to live. Her age, when finally revealed, didn't just surprise me. It inspired me. It reminded me that we're not limited by numbers, that we can embody growth, energy, and impact at any stage of life. It made me reflect on my own assumptions, my own timelines, and the ways in which I measure possibility. And more than anything, it reinforced the lesson that the people who leave the deepest mark on our lives often defy expectations in ways that are subtle, profound, and transformative. And so, when I think about her age now, it's not the digits that matter, it's the life behind them, the experiences, the energy, and the extraordinary way she reminds me that potential is boundless and wonder has no expiration date. In that revelation, I understood something undeniable. The most remarkable people aren't defined by the years they've lived. They're defined by the life they've brought into every moment, every connection, and every person they touch. One of the most remarkable things about her is the way she defies expectations and the way she challenges the invisible scripts we write for people before we even know them. We live in a world that loves categories, labels, and formulas. We're taught that people should act, speak, and live in ways that fit neatly into the boxes society provides. And for most of us, we do our best to conform, even when it feels unnatural, because it's safe. But she isn't safe in that sense. She doesn't follow the script. She doesn't check the boxes. She refuses to let anyone's assumptions define the rhythm of her life, and in doing so, she shatters the quiet expectations we all carry about what's possible, what's normal, or what's appropriate. It starts with the small things, the subtle ways she moves through the world that are immediately noticeable if you're paying attention. She approaches challenges differently, speaks with a voice that doesn't fit the mold, and sees opportunities where most people see limitations. It's not loud or aggressive. It's natural, effortless, and unapologetic. And that's what makes her so extraordinary. She embodies authenticity in a world that constantly pressures conformity. Watching her live fully, without hesitation or compromise, forces you to reconsider what it means to live a life true to yourself. Her age, the surprising fact that initially shocked me, becomes even more meaningful in this context, because she lives with wisdom, poise, and energy that seem far beyond what anyone would expect. She teaches a profound lesson about the limitations we place on ourselves and others. We think that experience, insight, and capability are tied to the number of years we've lived, but she proves that life's lessons aren't measured in increments of time. They're measured in curiosity, courage, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. She is living proof that stereotypes, assumptions, and societal norms are often nothing more than barriers we've constructed ourselves. And it's not just about age. It's about expectations of talent, capability, and impact. People often assume that certain levels of achievement, creativity, or influence are reserved for a particular type of person, at a particular stage of life, or with a particular background. She dismantles all of that. She pursues her ambitions with focus, innovation, and resilience that feels ageless. She doesn't wait for permission. She doesn't wait for validation. And she certainly doesn't wait for the right timing. She exists in a space where potential isn't dictated by circumstance. It's dictated by intention, imagination, and action. Her defiance of expectations has a ripple effect. It forces the people around her to confront their own assumptions, to reconsider what they believe is possible in their own lives. Simply by being who she is, she elevates the standards of possibility for everyone she encounters, and that, in itself, is a form of leadership. It's quiet but transformative. It's subtle but profound. It's the kind of influence that lasts far longer than the moment, because it changes the framework through which you view yourself, others, and the opportunities that surround you. There's a courage in her that is rare, the courage to reject limitation, to question convention, and to live boldly on her own terms. That courage doesn't just make her remarkable, it makes her revolutionary in a world that so often prioritizes safety over authenticity. She models a form of bravery that doesn't require fanfare or recognition. It simply exists in every decision she makes, every risk she takes, and every assumption she overturns. In her presence, you start to see your own courage differently. You realize that most of the boundaries you've accepted aren't fixed. They're negotiable. They can be challenged. They can be expanded. And that is the greatest lesson she teaches, that life isn't about fitting into expectations. It's about breaking them. It's about creating space for possibility, redefining what's achievable, and refusing to let arbitrary limits dictate your trajectory. By simply being herself, by embracing both her energy and her age in ways that defy conventional thinking, she demonstrates that the world is infinitely larger, richer, and more surprising than we give it credit for. The world thrives on assumption, but she thrives on possibility. And in thriving, she reminds everyone around her that true greatness comes not from following the path already laid out, but from forging the one only you can walk. It's one thing to meet someone who inspires you, who surprises you, who challenges assumptions and expectations. But it's another thing entirely to meet someone who fundamentally changes the way you think, feel, and live. That's the impact she's had on me, not in some fleeting, superficial way, but deep, enduring, transformative. From the moment our paths crossed, I began to notice subtle shifts in how I approach the world, how I approach my goals, and even how I approach myself. Her presence wasn't just invigorating, it was clarifying. It forced me to confront my own limitations, my own fears, and the invisible ceilings I had imposed on myself without even realizing it. Being around her is like standing next to a quiet, relentless force of nature. She challenges you, not by demanding change, but by modeling it. Her courage, her curiosity, her willingness to engage fully with life without hesitation, teaches by example. It's almost imperceptible at first, but over time, the lessons accumulate, leaving you altered in ways that aren't dramatic but are undeniable. You start to approach your ambitions differently. You start to think about your relationships differently. You start to value your own potential in ways you hadn't considered before. And it's liberating because suddenly the boundaries you thought were fixed feel flexible, expandable, even obsolete. Her impact extends beyond inspiration. It's practical, tangible, and profound. She encourages growth in ways that feel organic rather than forced. Conversations with her spark ideas you didn't know you were capable of generating. Moments shared with her reveal perspectives you might never have considered. Even silence, when shared, feels purposeful, a space in which reflection becomes deeper and clarity becomes sharper. She has this remarkable ability to make you feel capable of more than you thought possible, not by telling you what to do, but by showing you what can happen when someone truly commits to living fully and authentically. And it's not just about personal growth, it's about perspective. She has a way of making you see the world differently, of noticing the beauty, complexity, and possibility in places that might have seemed mundane or hopeless before. She encourages curiosity, cultivates resilience, and models compassion in ways that are subtle, almost effortless, yet profoundly transformative. The impact isn't always immediate, it's cumulative, like a gentle but persistent current shaping a landscape over time. And in that shaping, you begin to understand that growth, inspiration, and meaningful connection are not just outcomes. They're processes, ongoing and evolving. And she has a rare ability to make you participate fully in them without even realizing it. Her influence is also humbling. She reminds you that life isn't just about achieving goals or accumulating experiences. It's about engaging fully with the present, noticing the overlooked, valuing the intangible, and committing to principles that matter. She demonstrates that success isn't only defined by what you accomplish, but by how deeply you impact the people and world around you. Through her, I've learned that the measure of influence is not in recognition or applause, but in the subtle shifts it creates in thought, action, and perspective. Perhaps most importantly, her impact is enduring. It doesn't fade when she isn't around. It lingers, embedded in decisions, reflections, and actions. It challenges me to be more intentional, more courageous, and more visionary in every aspect of life. She has shown me that inspiration is not a fleeting emotion. It's a force that reshapes the way you interact with reality itself. Every choice I make, every idea I pursue, every relationship I nurture carries traces of her influence, and for that I am profoundly grateful. In the end, the impact she's had on me can't be measured by accomplishments alone. It's measured in growth, clarity, courage, and perspective. It's measured in the way I dream bigger, think deeper, and approach life with renewed energy and purpose. She has transformed ordinary moments into lessons, everyday interactions into revelations, and my understanding of possibility into something limitless. And in that transformation, I recognize the truth that the people who touch your life most profoundly are those who expand your world, ignite your potential, and leave you forever altered, not just by their presence, but by the way they inspire you to become the best version of yourself.